We've got exclusive new reporting tonight on how one of America's biggest investment banks is profiting on the war in Ukraine. Goldman Sachs. They say they are winding down operations in Russia, which is partially true, because at the very same time, they're actively trading Russian debt to U.S. clients, mostly hedge funds, and they're using a legal loophole to do it.
They left open a window, and Goldman Sachs has driven a truck through it. And basically what that window is that U.S. institutions are banned from trading Russian debt with those Russian banks that have been sanctioned, but not banned from what's called secondary trade. Biden administration has left that loophole open with the basic idea that companies here in this country, institutions in this country that hold Russian debt ought to be able to get rid of it. But at the same time, there are a lot of buyers for what is now seen as cheap debt. And Goldman Sachs has been advertising that to its clients and basically saying, hey, come on board while this debt is cheap. It's going to eventually go up later and you'll make a killing.
The most important takeaway from the clip that you just saw is the simple fact that there is no morality, no patriotism, no humanity under capitalism. At the end of the day, all they care about is profits. Now let's think about this for a second. Everything leading up to before Russia invaded Ukraine, there were many exit ramps that the United States could have taken in order to try to avoid this. In fact, President Zelensky, before the invasion, was continuously asking the United States to calm down its rhetoric and to try to bargain with the Russian government to make sure that this exact situation didn't happen. But the ultimate reality is that companies in the United States, and as a result, politicians in the United States, don't actually care about what's going on in the ground in Ukraine. What the United States really wanted were these sanctions to hurt the Russian economy. But even then, they wanted to make sure that the sanctions were done in such a way that wouldn't hurt American businesses. Because we all really know who these politicians work for. Now, just to be very clear, just because the United States wasn't playing any role in de-escalating this conflict beforehand doesn't mean that Russia is justified in any way, shape, or form. This invasion is obviously completely unjustified. But focusing on the role of the United States, it's important to remember that there are war profiteers that will find any way that they can to profit off of the death and destruction that happens during war. Right now, defense industries are looking to profit off of selling weapons to Ukraine, and these financial institutions are looking for any way that they can capitalize and profit off of the Russian debt that has now become far, far cheaper. This is in fact pretty standard practice. When the United States invades a country, there are usually financial vultures that are ready on the side, even when sanctions are there, to try and use the collapse of their economy as a way to come in and purchase things like debt in order to have a stake in that country so that when the sanctions are gone, they can have a significant chunk of control over their economy. So if these financial institutions are finding ways to purchase up this Russian debt, that can give them leverage not only over these Russian companies, but maybe even over the Russian government itself. And if you look at the history of the United States, you could probably argue that that's really one of the goals, to crush the Russian economy so that American businesses can profit off of it. And then, on the side of what's happening in Ukraine, to sell as many weapons to Ukraine as possible in order to make a profit for these defense contractors. Now, if we lived in a morally decent country, it would be illegal to profit off of any of this. That any profits that would be made would be taken in the form of taxes in order to compensate both the refugees that are fleeing Ukraine right now and American citizens that are being impacted by this increase in gas prices. But no, that's not what's happening. Because of course, once again, we know these politicians are more interested in making sure that corporations are able to make money. They're not talking about putting in place price controls to make sure that the cost of food doesn't go up as gas prices increase the cost of transportation. But of course, there are these loopholes that are open for giant companies to be able to profit off of this war in Ukraine. It seems to be a common trend in war that what we are seeing right now is the working class people of Ukraine are suffering horrific bombardment of their cities. The working class people of Russia and the United States are facing economic hardship as a result of this conflict. The only people that win in war are the profiteers that are there to make money off of the violence, the death, and the destruction.
This is Ben Carollo with Rebel Headquarters. You can catch my show Galaxy Brain on the Young Turks Twitch channel every Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. If you want to stay up to date with my content, you can follow me at Benjamin Carollo on Twitter. And lastly, to those of you who might be wondering or have noticed, my pronouns are in fact she, her.